Miss World. Welcome to Meet Them Mondays, a show about the wins and losses on the road to success. I'm your host, Cristian Portilla, and tonight I'm in the studio with Jordan the Jeweler, aka your favorite jeweler's jeweler. Did you like that?
Yeah,
So, welcome to the studio, Jordan.
thanks for having me.
Okay, so how was your weekend?
It
What'd
was
you do
good.
this weekend?
I went to a pop up. It's called the Los Daddies pop up. It's my friend Diego and his friend Danny, and I just came up with this idea kind of out of nowhere. They has hosted it at the tipping point, so it was pretty cool. A lot of people came out. That's where this hat is from.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
is everybody seeing the hat on the IG live?
yeah. There's no more of these, so
Oh,
yeah, they sold
okay, he's
out. Yeah, yeah,
exclusive.
they
And
sold
shout out
out.
to David from the Tipping
Yeah,
Point. He was my last guest on the show, and like he's just always doing so much for
yeah.
like the
I see a
culture and the
lot.
community here. Yeah. And so hold on, tell me about your artist friend. So you told me that he does like different like designs and he
Yeah,
like does
Diego.
graphics.
Yeah, he's been doing it pretty much since like high school. Like he started out just like drawing on T-shirts, and he came out with like different hats and just plush toys and things like that. So like I told you, I don't like the word creative, but
Yeah.
he was like a creative before it was like a thing, you
Like
know?
a wave, yeah.
Yeah.
But why don't you like the word creative though?
I just feel like a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm a creative," but they don't really do anything. It's
Yeah.
like when people have like a CEO in like their bio, but it's like there's no website. There's no proof of anything.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you do? And it's like, oh, I help people. And it's like, yeah,
Click the link in my bio and
yeah,
then you go to
yeah,
like a GoFundMe page or
yeah.
something.
GoFundMe or buy my course.
Yeah, by my
Yeah,
course,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think though that that's kind of like the wave that we're on now, like as this new generation of people on Instagram and like social media influencers and like stuff like that, influencers. Like I think that there's some that are legit and then there's also some people that it's just like on
yeah, for
some
sure.
bullshit, you know?
Yeah,
Um, so I kind of wanted to start by telling people how we met. Do
yeah,
you know how we met? Since we're talking shit about
yeah.
the interwebs and
Uh,
Instagram.
it was through Instagram, and I don't remember if I just seen that uh, June the barber was gonna be on here,
Yeah,
and Georgie was on here.
yeah,
So then I followed you the page through
yeah,
that, and then you had just messaged me like, "Hey, I have some jewelry. Can you think you can fix it?"
yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, bring it by." And then I didn't hear from you, so I was like, "I guess you don't want me to fix it." And then you just dropped it off one day, and I wasn't there.
Mhm.
And then I literally just met you Saturday, and
Yeah.
then you were leaving the shop, and you're like, "Hey, you gonna be on the show?"
I
And I
know.
was like, "Sure."
I was just telling Cisco, who's my, who I record here at the studio if you're listening to this on the audio version. And it's funny because I talk so much about how like Houston shows so much love in like moments like that. And even as like podcasters, one thing or the other, I wasn't gonna have a guest like right away. And lo and behold, I met you and you had such an interesting story. Like we hit
Mm,
it off, we were talking, and same thing with you. Like you told me that you had been listening to the
yeah,
podcast, and like sometimes my DMs and my messages and certain things get lost, so I take a little bit of time. But like I'm always looking, I'm
yeah.
always and then when I'm on it, I'm on it. That's kind of like the creative curse,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
do the same thing where DMs will get lost in the shuffle,
Yeah,
and then people will be like, "Hey, like, are
yeah.
you gonna make my thing?" And it's like, "My bad, my bad."
Yeah. But you know what? I want to talk about that actually because so kind of like same thing for me as like a writer. Writing is like a solitary practice.
Yeah,
It's like if I don't publish that article, if I don't write it, it's not going to come out. And for you, you're the man behind Jordan the jeweler. Like
yeah.
if there's no Jordan, there's no jewelry. So like how do you feel in terms of like the process of making jewelry and just kind of like being a one man band and like the responsibility that you have of like following through and creating, getting back to people. Like you're a whole business.
Yeah, it's for sure not easy, but I have my mentor, I guess you'd say, David. I don't know if you met him,
The
but
papi from the
yeah,
the jewelry store.
yeah,
Is he Mexican?
yeah. He's Mexican,
Yeah.
from Mexico City,
Okay.
and he just kind of took me in just randomly, and he kind of showed me like what to do and what not to do. So just based off his advice, and I've kind of had like small businesses like in the past, like small little things I used to do. So I was used to kind of like the business side of it, Well, but I had to get used to like the creating side of it.
Yeah.
So that's like where the hump was. I mean, I'm still not great at handling like the DMs and everything, just because it's like I
It's all
literally,
on you.
yeah, and people I don't think they understand that like I have to make the piece and I make everything by hand, so it's like there's hours into that, and then after that I still have a life after that, so I have to facilitate the relationships and people and other stuff I have to handle.
Yeah.
So then getting back to like it's just a vicious cycle. Like you
Yeah.
can't catch up.
Sometimes I used to call like my relationship with Meet Them Mondays like my not my toxic relationship but like my abusive relationship
For sure.
sometimes,
Yeah.
because it's like I love it so much and it takes so much out of me, but it brings me so much joy, like,
Yeah.
so you kind of like are navigating what that's like. And so I kind of want to start with, going back to like the origins of how you got started as a jeweler. So from when we spoke, you told me it was already like 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and you were actually inspired by Vice.
Yeah.
So, fun fact, I've worked with Vice before.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and so I was familiar with kind of like the episode you
Oh.
told me, but kind of take me to that moment that you found out through, like, kind of found what you wanted to do.
Well, if you go before the 3 years, I was working at a kind of like a desk job where I was, you know what Panasonic is?
Yeah.
Well, they had bought this company I was working for. They do like security camera systems, but it's for like prisons and hospitals, like big scale stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just like torture every day. It was like you go in, sit at the desk, and then you're just there for the 8 hours.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So then I started slacking off, trying to figure out like kind of what I could do to not have to work for somebody.
Yeah.
So I spent most of my days doing that, and then finally they were just like, "You gotta go. Like you're not doing anything here," because they like seen my history,
Yeah.
and it'd be like how to not have a job and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So then they like let me go.
Oh, like your work search
Yeah,
history?
yeah.
Damn, that's a rookie mistake.
Yeah, but I was like kind of they like put me in the corner, and it was like one of those jobs where it's like, oh, just figure it out on your own. So it's like I wasn't, not that I wasn't good at it. It was
You just
like,
weren't motivated.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like your morale for like the job
Exactly.
had kind of like decreased.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah. So then they were just like, yeah, that's not really working out. So then they was like, let me go, and I was like, that's not like I felt better getting fired than being at the job. So I was like, whatever. So then I kind of took about 8 months off of like just being a bum pretty much.
Yeah.
And then it was like kind of like my family was like, kind of, you got to do something. Like
Yeah.
you can't just, because at that time I was in school, but I was trying to go to school for business, but then U of H business was like, you can't get it. Like we're not gonna let you in our program, pretty much.
Really?
Yeah.
How come?
Just because I got into college, and then it was just kind of like I always did really well in school, but
Yeah.
then once I got to college, I was just like,
You weren't
it's-
passionate.
Yeah, it was like it's not really work. And plus, in the end, I wanted to work for myself anyways,
Yeah.
because most people in my family do have their own thing.
Okay.
So then, like, I just wasn't doing anything for about a year, and then I seen that Vice episode of Jimmy Boy, which is the jeweler here.
Yeah.
And he was making a piece for Killer Mike. And I was like, that looks like a pretty cool job. Like, I could see myself doing that, which is, I think it was just because I was just smoking every day. So I was like, it's a high thought, you know?
A high deal.
Yeah, a high idea. So then, for some reason, it just kind of clicked. And I was like, let me just call a couple jewelry stores to see, like, how do you even do that?
Yeah.
So I called about 10 locally. And they were all like, "Oh no, you got to go to this school in Paris, Texas, and it's like $50,000 to like go through the program or whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, I just quit school. I'm not trying to go back to school." And then luckily, I just called this guy David, and I called him, and you could tell he was busy, and he was like, I was like, "Hey, I was just calling to see like how do you become a jeweler?" And he was like, "What?" And then I was like, "Yeah, I just watched this thing on TV, and I just had a question." And he was like, I can't really talk right now, but can you come in about an hour? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, big beard, like no haircut, like just
Yeah.
being a bum. So I like put on like the best shirt I had in the pants, and I went over there, and then I started talking to him, and he was like, what do you do? And I was like, nothing right now. And he's like, can you draw? And I was like, no. He's like, are you creative? And I was like, I mean, maybe. And
Yeah.
then he was like, I don't know. And then we just like ended up talking for like 4 hours. Like he just pretty much quit working for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And then we just talked, and he gave me a tour of the shop. And then he was like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And I was like, "I don't have anything to do." And then he was like, "Well, you want to come back tomorrow, and maybe I can show you a few things." And I was like, "Sure." And then I went back the next day, and I've been going back ever since.
That's crazy. And that was already now like 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years ago, back in May.
So I want to backtrack for a second, because you said like, oh, I took, the 8 months off and being a bum and this and that. But like, one thing that I will say is that I've also had like a period of rest. And as much I feel like, and maybe this just comes from like being like people of color and like always feeling like we have to work, or I don't know about your story in particular, but like, when you grow up poor, you grow up struggling, or you grow up needing,
Yeah.
resources. There's never a time where I had seen anyone in my family like rest
Yeah.
or take a vacation or be unemployed, or and it literally takes a toll on you as a person now, where you feel like, yo, I'm a bum, I'm a loser, I have nothing going for me. Because God forbid we take a time of rest.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's unheard of, because we're always on this like grind culture. And so it's not being a bum.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a period of rest, just like winter and seasons take a period off,
Yeah.
but it comes back even stronger.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, what's happened to both me and you. But now I want to talk about what's his name, the Mexican puppy now, from
David.
David.
Yeah.
And so, because I saw him at the store. But have you guys had that conversation where you talk to him and you're like, what did you think of me when I first popped in here? Like, how did you even trust me to come into your jewelry store? You
Yeah.
showed me around. Like, what was it that he said that he saw in you that he wanted to give you that opportunity?
His thing was, he was like, I could tell you weren't like he said like a bad kid, but he was just saying like the way I talked and the way I carried myself. And he was like, a lot of people, they'll ask me the same thing to like teach them, or they want to find out and they don't come back the next day, or they just kind of shrug me off. And then he was actually looking for somebody at the time. Like he told me like he was talking to his mom because they had somebody that was the me before, but the guy never really did anything on his own. Like he never had his own clients or took the initiative to stay late or learn. Because the thing about jewelry is like, all right, David, he's a master jeweler, which is like there's so many processes in the step of making a piece that it's like 9 steps, and he does all 9 steps.
Oh, wow.
So most places, like at a big jewelry store, they'll have one person that makes the piece like in wax, and then the person that makes it in the metal, and then the person that cleans it up, and then the person that sets the stones like the diamonds, and then the person that polishes it, and then they have the salesman in the front. Well, we do 1 to 9, like A to Z, like that's
Yeah.
just me and him. So what he wanted to do was teach me everything, like from A to Z. He was like, and I feel like you can get it, because he was like, you seem smart. And it seemed smart, yeah. And then so I just started showing up, and like the first day I went, he showed me how to make a ring, and he just kind of like told me like, this is what you do, here's the materials, let's see what you can do. And I was like, all right. So I spent like 3 hours just making a simple like wedding band, like
Yeah.
in silver, and I made it. And then he was just like, okay, like we can work with this. So then it just kind of from there,
It took off.
yeah,
Would you say that you're like a visual learner?
for sure, yeah,
Yeah.
very hands on,
Yeah.
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 But I can also read and like apply the knowledge.
Yeah.
But I'm better if someone shows me how to do something once, then I pretty much can,
Pick up on
yeah,
it. And also, there's something to be said about him really investing in you
Yeah.
and giving you almost like, how they say if you teach a man how to fish versus like catching the fish for
Yeah. Yeah,
that
for
man,
sure.
because then they can feed themselves forever. He gave you like your trade, like,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and you also applied it and you showed
Mhm.
up. I think that I always say this, but like one of the secrets to life is like follow through.
Yeah, consistency.
Consistency. If you're not consistent, like, you'll dream and dream and have ideas, but you won't see things come to life,
Yeah.
you know? And that's kind of like the same thing that happened, you know, with the person before. Having consistency, having a passion, and like applying that knowledge, and
Mm-hmm.
like understanding that it's a process, you know.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about where you grew up, because I'm new to Houston, and when I drove out there to go to the shop,
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't been that way. I don't think it's called Pasadena. You told me.
Yeah, it's like the edge of Pasadena and South Houston, kind of old Pasadena.
Yeah, and so you told me that you're from that area.
Yeah.
You grew up around there, and on top of the fact that you told me about how the neighborhood is changing, which I
Yeah.
like for like our listeners to know. You told me about gentrification. I also want to talk about you being a black jeweler in
Mm-hmm.
Pasadena.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess tell me what's been going on with your hood, like what's going on with the area over there. What are some of the changes you're seeing now?
I would say it's like the reverse of gentrification.
Okay.
It's like because where the areas that do get gentrified, those people have to go somewhere, and Pasadena is like in South Houston area. It's kind of like where they're migrating.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
like not necessarily the people. It's just the mentality, I guess. Like if you push people who don't have much to another area, they're gonna look for what they need. And if people in the area have stuff, then it's gonna there's gonna be conflict either way.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of I wouldn't say it's changing necessarily in a bad way, but you can definitely like notice maybe I shouldn't stop here, or maybe I should not leave my car open.
Yeah.
Like you just shouldn't do that anyway. But
Yeah.
before you probably felt more like before I felt more comfortable in my neighborhood. And I'm not saying I don't feel comfortable now. It's just like I notice like
You gotta
I
be
gotta
weary.
you gotta be yeah. You gotta be like head on a swivel kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I saw in the comments a lot from your posts, and for the people that you know, your clients, is that they shout you out a lot for being a black jeweler.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about you know, your identity and being in your career, and do you see yourself represented? Do you feel like a minority in what you do? Do you see maybe more like affluent people being the jewelers, and like, you know, how do you see yourself reflected in your career?
Well, like I've never been like you said, like a minority. Like what's my identity? I don't know if you've ever heard like the Earl Sweatshirt song where he's like I'm too black for the white kids and too white for the black. That's kind of like they used to call me an Oreo in school and stuff like, oh, that's the whitest black kid I know. So it's like I was never really accepted either way.
Yeah.
So I was always kind of just did what I did. I don't really see like people say I don't see color,
Yeah.
but they do. Like I really don't. Like I have 3 sisters and they're all half Hispanic. So it's like we have a mixed family anyway.
Yeah.
So growing up in that environment just kind of translates. Like I have a best friend who's Indian, best friend who's Vietnamese. Like we all hang out. So it's like a little United Nations. So I don't
The
really
free
feel,
nationals.
yeah. So I don't really feel like slighted with people. I just kind of know like, oh, if a person grew up in the like a certain area, they're not used to seeing like a black person or a white person, Asian person, things like that. So kind of carrying that with me. The only hard part I would say is when I started getting like supplies from the jewelry stores. It's a lot of Asian people and a lot of like Middle Eastern people, and they're not too open to it because like they're black people are more customers than like suppliers.
Mm.
So like the first like year and a half I would go, like there'd be times like where they wouldn't open the door for me. Like they'd be like what are you here for? Or like I go in and they're like hurry up, like, or like they'll try to charge me a little bit more than they normally, like someone else. Like one time I went, and when you buy like raw gold, you buy it like little pebbles. You buy it by like the ounce or whatever like that. And like I noticed the guy in front of me got charged one price, and then I went up there and I got charged like $10 more. And it's $10, but it's the principle of the matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just little things like that to where it's like I can't get my stuff because they don't wanna they don't wanna serve me, or like it's not like super bad, but it's like I feel the like you could feel like the like what are you doing here?
Like
Like
the
like
tension.
you don't belong.
So are you basically telling me because you're black, like you get a different approach?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cause like the place where you get all the supplies, it's a big like 9-story building. So on the first floor, it's like all like little shops, like little jewelry stores, and that's where you see like most of the black people, cause they're shopping.
Yeah.
And then like the ones that go up, there's like specialty shops up top. Maybe they're picking up like a custom piece or something like that. Or like when I go into like the supply places, they're like double check or double checks, and then they're like how long, like why are you still here, or like why, like I'll be putting my money up because you gotta, I don't want to just walk out with cash in my hands.
Yeah.
So I like standing there like trying to fix my stuff, and like you need to leave, you need to leave, or like, oh, no backpacks, no backpacks.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
Or like, oh, the whole corona thing with the mask, they'd be like, take your mask down, and then like flash the camera your face. But like I would see other people just like walking in,
What?
and it'd be places I've been going to where they're like, who are you? And it's like, I was just in here, like
Yeah.
you told me this last time.
Yeah.
So things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't really get like too upset.
Yeah.
It's just because I find it more funny. Like I'm trying to spend money with you, and you're like kind of gatekeeping.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's whatever.
I mean, there's also something to be said about, it's what you said. Usually, like Black and Latino people are the consumers,
Yeah.
are the ones that like are wearing like all this jewelry. I know that in my Latino culture, I call them the papi chains, because like like when you're a little kid, like
Yeah.
you immediately get a papi chain,
Yeah.
and like with a little like santo or a dije or
Yeah.
like a Jesus,
Little
some
virgin.
a
Yeah.
little a
Yeah.
little virgin. If you're depending, like especially in Miami, we have like these little mal de ojo pieces, which are like the evil eye pieces.
Yeah.
And they have like the red and the black beads, or like
Yeah.
these little things that women pin to like their bras with like the black hands. Like it's just all of these things that culturally, like jewelry, like we're like, I guess, a people that have been, like jewelry is part of like our ancestry and
Right.
like our history and all of this stuff. But like I was telling you, in Colombia, like gold and emeralds and all of that stuff, like it's a really big export. It's a very big trade in Colombia, like a natural resource, to have like stones and gems and all of this. And I feel like I've always noticed like the POC culture be flashy when it comes to their jewelry. Like
sure.
like there's a subculture of like wearing these like blinged out chains and all this stuff. And we even hear like like Sweetie now, like Icy Queen, and like I see this and I see that. And I think that that's also kind of like re-injected that like feeling of like, oh, I gotta be iced out, I gotta
Yeah.
look cute, I gotta accessorize, I gotta
It's like a trophy. Like,
It's like a trophy,
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
a status. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I got my gold chain. Like, I got my Cuban. I got my diamonds. I got the earrings. I got the bracelet. I got the ring. Like,
Yeah. I've bonded with my mom so much over jewelry because it was like, the one thing that my mom, like we got handed down in our family. And it was when I moved out on my own, and I had this jewelry accumulated from my mom, like from Colombia, and the gold is different over there. It's like a different,
yeah.
yeah, like the
Yeah.
color is different. It has like a, it's just different.
It also reacts different. Like, when we work with it, we have to work with it a different way than we do certain other golds because of the. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it why? Because of like the mint, like what the.
What I was told is it's the location.
Yeah.
With the whole equator and the like compression of the soil and stuff like that. It just has a different.
Like
just
chemistry
diff-
to
yeah.
it. Yeah. And so I remember that when I was going through hard times, I knew that I could pawn this jewelry and make it do what it do and
Yeah.
get through a hard day. And let me tell you, like, my mom has never taught us to be like materialistic people, but she was always like, have your little chain, have
Yeah.
your little thing, have your accessories. But she's like, but if she gets rough, like, you know what you gotta do, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's also been like a way for POC people, and like, when we needed cash to like, maybe you got something upon and you could get you like by on a hard day, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And take it out of the pawn if you can, and if not, then
Yeah.
RIP, And so I remember when I was purchasing my house, I had a situation come up and I needed to come up with money right before the closing of the house, and I was like, damn, like if I don't come up with this money, I'm not gonna be able to buy a house like this house. And I set out for the weekend
Mm-hmm.
and I did what needed to be done, and I came home and I had the money and I was able to get my house
Yeah.
with just the fact that like I had jewelry that had been passed down. And unfortunately, I remember when we met, we talked about getting robbed.
Yeah.
When it comes to your jewelry, can you tell me some stories about getting robbed?
Yeah, I had a guy, like literally he bought his chain. Like he paid me for the chain. He came in on a Friday cuz he had somewhere to go on Saturday. And he literally came back Monday and he was like, "I need another one cuz it got robbed." And he was pumping gas on the southwest side of town, and he said he was just pumping gas, and out of nowhere someone just came up behind him and ripped his chain. And the way this piece was made, it has like a box lock,
Yeah,
so it's like you can't rip it. It's like it's metal, you know.
yeah.
So when it pulled, he had like a mark across like the chain imprint on his neck, and he had to like take it off. And yeah, it was pretty bad.
Damn.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about your trade. And when it comes to like, I know that you told me that you feel, when people look at your Instagram, they're not going to see a character. They're not going to see a personality. A lot of times, a lot of people don't even know your face.
Yeah.
And you've been intentional about that because you don't really you want to be low key.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about why you want to be low key. And, I remember you telling me, Chris, people are just weird.
Yeah, people are just weird. They'll think you have something you don't have, or you have something you do have. And just like, I don't know if you ever seen Paid in Full, like when Ace, when he's in the club and he's like, I don't like the bright lights and stuff like that, the flashing money. Like, that's kind of where I got that from.
Yeah.
And I just had like I have brother-in-laws who maybe are not done the best of things, and they've always told me like, hey, why don't you not do that or not show this, or just be a little bit more like on the quiet side of
Yeah.
things. I mean, I'm not a flashy person. Like, I don't even wear jewelry.
I
And
know.
make
I was
jewelry,
going to
so,
say that.
yeah.
Yeah. You're
So
not like blinged out and stuff.
yeah, I think it's just too much attention that I don't want. I mean, eventually, who knows what I'll look like in a couple years? I might be iced like a Mr. T or something, but as of now, it's not something that I'm really trying to do.
But when you say they think that you have something that you don't,
Yeah.
do you mean in terms of like your status? Like you have money, you have all this jewelry on you constantly? Like what is it that you think,
I
or they
mean,
want to use you for like,
I,
like,
yeah, I feel like for instance, like when I got with my girlfriend, she was telling me like her friends were like, oh, like you bagged one, and I'm like, she's taking care of me right now,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
during the beginning of the pandemic and stuff like that, because that's like wasn't because we didn't know what was gonna happen.
yeah,
So they'd be like, she's buying me food right now, So people don't really know, like they just see like, oh, he's talking to this person online, or oh, I see you did a piece for this guy, so you must be in this bracket, but they don't understand like that's not how it works.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, being a jeweler too is like it's a trade, at
yeah.
the end of the day. Like it's still, most of the time you're making pieces for other people that can afford like luxury items,
Mhm.
And that's not to say that you can't afford it and that you can't have it. But I recently read something that said just because you can make payments on it doesn't mean you can afford it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I thought that shit was so true because we live in this time of like wanting to, show off for the gram, like the things that we have. But like a lot of us deep down inside are maybe struggling a little bit more and just trying to like make payments and
Mhm.
getting in debt and all of this shit just to keep up with like the clout,
Yeah.
like the social media clout.
Yeah, I've told people like they'll be like, hey, I only have this much to spend, but how about if I just pay you this much this week? And I'm like, yeah, we can do that. I was like, but why don't you just come back like when you like more comfortable like paying for what you want?
Yeah.
Because they'll be trying to like cut corners and things like that. So just come back when you feel more comfortable spending that money.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to like, yeah, I mean, if you want to give me your money, cool, but like I'd rather like most of my customers, clients, whatever, I feel like they become friends in the end, just because it's like a more personal thing.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you also have a really good like energy and disposition to you.
well,
I
thank you.
think that's why we also click too, like so easily because you don't seem like a transactional person.
Hmm.
Like even when you handed me back my stuff, you explained to me like what you did, that you even cleaned it for me, you replated it for me.
Hmm.
Like you're not just paying for like that one thing that you know you
Right.
said you were gonna do. Like you go the extra mile when it comes to like your business
Hmm.
and like taking care of your clients, you know. What does your family think about what you do?
They really don't ask too many questions. Like my mom at first, she was like, "You're gonna do what?" And I was like, started getting a little success, you know. And she was like, "Oh, look what my baby's doing," you know. At first, she's kind of like, "How's that gonna work? Like,
Yeah.
what's your long term plan?" And then she started seeing like the little things I was doing, and then she was like, "Okay, like that's cool if you're happy."
Yeah.
And then like my sisters are cool with it. You know, they buy stuff. I make them stuff like on their birthdays and stuff like that. Christmas, I'll make them pieces.
Yeah.
So they like it.
Yeah.
Like my nephews and everything, they like telling people like, "Oh, you can go to my uncle. He's a jeweler," you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they kind of proud, I guess.
Yeah. And do you feel a lot happier now than like do you feel like this is what you want to do? Like you found your purpose?
Yeah, I would say. I feel like it's just being able to create something, like no matter what it would be. I feel like I'd be happy. But this is like, I think it found me honestly, because I
Yeah.
feel like it worked out too perfect to not be what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like how I feel. I feel like it was just meant to, like he was looking for somebody, I was looking for a trade pretty much to
Yeah.
do, but I didn't want to be a plumber or welder.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was supposed to be going to work at FedEx with my brother-in-law's brother, and I was like not trying to do that. So it just all kind of worked.
Yeah.
Mm.
I feel like I say that about journalism too. Like journalism found me for
Yeah.
sure.
Not to
Yeah.
be too like corny, but
No.
yeah, I feel like it just kind
I
of
literally no. I mean, it's like energies, you know,
yeah.
like your intentions, like
Mm.
wherever your intentions are, like and you really like sometimes like something just like the universe will conspire to have it like to help you get it too, like when your heart really knows what it wants. Because I feel the same way. I literally say that like journalism found me,
Yeah.
you know, like the ability to write and all of that stuff. I went to school, yes, but like, you know,
Yeah, but
it
there's stuff that you use for your craft that you don't necessarily learn in school.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I also want to talk about you know, the like Unghetto Matthew. Have you heard of him
No,
on
I
on
don't think so.
YouTube? So Unghetto Matthew does this YouTube series. He's like an artist and stuff like that. But he does a series where he checks people at the mall with like a diamond
Oh
checker.
yeah, yeah. I've
And I
seen that.
started watching those videos and I thought they were so funny because a lot of people out here really be like doing you know the most with their
Yeah,
jewelry, but they don't really be, you know, I
yeah.
sing it out. Have you had any like funny stories where people think that they have like
Oh yeah. I just had a guy actually last week. He came in with a Rolex with diamonds all over it and everything.
bust down
Yeah,
Rolex?
bust down like a $25,000 watch is what he paid. And he came in. He's like, "Yeah, I just want to get it cleaned. The diamond fell out." So I don't really know too much about Rolexes. Like there's really good fakes out there that even I would like wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
So I was showing David. I was like, "Hey, this guy wants to put a diamond. Like, how much do you want to charge him, whatever?" And he just like did like a quick glance. Like he was like, "That's not real." And I was like, "Can you tell him? Because I don't want to tell him." So then he goes up there and he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Sorry, man, it's not real." And he's like, "Are you serious?" And he's like, "I paid 25,000 for it." He was like, "I mean, it's worth about 7 because the diamonds are real, but the watch is like from Japan." Like, and then he's like, "Let me show you." And he took it apart, and you could just tell when he took it apart, like he just kind of like popped the back off,
Like just
like just
yeah.
like a $10 watch.
Yeah.
He just popped the back off, and he was like, "Look at the inside," and it had like a battery in it. And Rolexes don't have batteries; they have a movement.
Like a mechanism?
Yeah, and yeah, that guy was not too happy.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but we actually have a lot of people who they'll come in like with a big chain and be like, "Oh, I want to sell this," and then it'll be plated or not like not even any kind of metal. It'll be plastic. Sometimes they're plastic coated, but they put stuff in them like I've seen sand in one of them, like just to give it weight, you know.
What?
Mhm.
Okay, so what are that's crazy.
Yeah.
So how do we avoid like when we want to invest in a piece, how do we avoid getting scammed? Like, what are the do's and don'ts? Like, what are some of the things we could do to like make sure that we're,
Go to someone who's actually making the piece, or someone you someone like you can refer, like someone referred you to somebody, or because like if you see like a lot of jewelers on Instagram, not to like
No,
talk down,
please,
yeah,
please,
but
please
a lot
do.
of the jewelers on Instagrams, they're not really jewelers, they're just salespeople. Like they don't ever actually touch the piece until they're giving it to you.
Okay.
So that's something like you walk into one of these big stores or something, and they're charging you $5,000, and the guy's wearing like Gucci down, like like just over the top dress.
Yeah.
Like you're probably gonna get scammed. Like you're getting charged double or triple. Like someone like me or like another little mom and pop shop would charge you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah,
I don't ever want to get scammed like
yeah.
that on some stuff. Like fuck that. I want to talk about how I found a new artist that I actually really like because of you.
Oh,
And
really?
so yeah, his name is Doman. Doman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so of course I was going through your IG, and like I said, your account is you're low key,
Yeah.
but you got a lot of verified people following you for a
Yeah.
low key account.
Yeah.
So I was going through there and I was like, let me see what Jordan is about. And so I saw that obviously you did Georgie and Les's piece. Georgie was also on the show for
Mhm.
Dios. You did his pendant, which is that what it's
Yeah.
called?
The
The pendant?
pendant. Yeah.
And that one's like a big deal because like a lot of people show him love for it, and it's
Mhm.
their logo and stuff like that. And then you have Hoodlum, that follows you on IG.
Yeah.
Sticks also follows you. And Drake's Chop DJ Ron C also
Yeah.
follows you on IG.
Yeah.
And so when I was looking at them, these are just some of the few that stood out because you have a few, like you have artists and all of these people. How has your connection with the artist community been? How have you become like the jeweler to these artists and these creatives, quote unquote? Like, how did you? Because let's be honest, we look at Instagram first and we look at like, is this person legit?
Yeah.
But you're low key and like you're not out there like that with your
Yeah.
stuff. So how did you end up becoming the jeweler of these artists and these famous people?
Honestly, I'd have to give pretty much all the props to Chasing Cash. If you don't know him, he's a producer. He makes beats, he raps, and things like that.
Here from Houston?
He's from New Orleans, but
Okay.
he lives in LA. So I used to listen to his music, like even before, like ever talking to him and things like that. And then back like when I was being a bum.
When you were resting?
Yeah, when I was resting, I wanted to start a podcast then, and I had actually emailed him because he had his email on his Twitter, so I emailed him, and we had like a little back and forth, but like nothing ever came of it. And then he used to like do this thing where he would just tweet pictures of like Rolexes and G wagons and things like that. Like I'd say like kind of like manifesting it like on Twitter like early in the morning. And one day, I seen him post a Rolex, and then I just sent him a picture of a Rolex I had worked on, like no words, just a picture on Twitter. And then he just replied and was like, I had a pinned tweet on my Twitter. It was like 2 chains, and I was like, these won't turn your neck green.
Yeah.
And he just tweeted me back like in a couple minutes and was like, send me 2 of those chains in your pinned tweet. And I was like, oh shit, like, cause I was literally like, I started talking to him like it was probably 3 or 4 months after I had started. So then we kept in contact. So we're working on a piece, and then
Hold on. So you sent him the stuff? He bought it?
no.
Oh, okay.
So he was like, I was like, well, I can do pretty much anything. Like I was like, I can do anything.
Yeah.
And then we started like designing a piece, but that piece just never panned out. And then he hit me back, cause he had sent me a deposit, and then we just kind of like he got busy, I got busy, but I still had the money, and it was just sitting. And then he just messaged me one day, and he was like, let's just do something to like the amount I sent you. And I was like, all right. So then I just kind of like started thinking, did a couple designs, sent him a couple sketches, and then I made him a ring. He was like, let's do it. So I made the ring and sent it to him. And then after that, it was just kind of like,
Was that the 4-tier ring that you made or no?
no, it's the CBR.
Okay.
It has like a big R, and then it's like a little CB for his clothing brand.
Yeah.
And he posted it, and then after that, I would start getting just like his followers were like, "Oh, that's cool," and then he was like, he's a black jeweler,
Yeah.
so then it's kind of like from
Took
there,
off.
yeah. And then I think that's how Georgie found me. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but then I got in contact with Georgie, and then Chase. He had referred me to some people like in the music industry, and then that's how Sticks found me, and then Sticks just connected me to that school I was telling you about where I did
Yeah.
all
Where
the
you made.
bracelets for the
Yeah.
seniors. So then it's just kind of like word of mouth, really.
Yeah.
So that's why people ask me like, "Oh, you don't have a website?" Or it's like I never had time to like sit down and do it because it just took off from there.
Yeah. Like word of mouth
Yeah.
clients. Yeah.
So I kind of like being that kind of like, who is this guy and why do so many people I know follow him?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, how does he know all these celebrities? Or how
Yeah.
do all these celebrities follow him? Like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
Because, like I said, like you aren't trying to be like the center of attention. But one of the things you said is, I do everything. So if people listening are interested in your jewelry, want something, what is it that you do? Like, what are your services? What do you have to offer? And what can they really hit you up for?
If you already have jewelry, I can. If it breaks, I can fix it. If you wanna, like, if you people don't really know that if you have like gold chains or rings that you don't wear anymore,
You can melt them
you
down.
can melt it down and make something new. And I do that a lot actually for like older people.
Yeah,
'Cause,
my mom taught me about that.
yeah, so you can just like recycle it pretty much.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. If you have stuff that you just need like a ring size, like I did for you,
Yeah.
or
And the chain too.
yeah, just fix the chain if it's broken, or if you want a custom piece, engagement rings, things like that. That's something I'm looking to get more into this year. Working on like a little engagement collection,
Yeah.
because I have a lot of friends who want to propose and they don't have the 5,000 to spend. So, but I'll be cool breaking off a little 1,500. So it's like trying to make something more affordable to like my peers, pretty
Yeah.
much, but then have like still have the high, for the ballers and stuff like that.
Yeah. So for the people thinking about getting engaged, instead of going to Jared, they could
Yeah.
go to
Jordan,
Jordan.
yeah.
And there was another. It's funny that you say that because there's a black designer. I'm sure you've heard of him, Telfar.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
he had that same concept where it was making a luxury item, which were his handbags,
Yeah.
but affordable so that the people could wear them.
But then even that like turned into
A
yeah.
massive global
Yeah.
brand, yeah, because his bags are like they start at like 150.
Yeah, but then the resale on them is
350,
3-4,
yeah, 350, 450, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a really good concept to have. I also want to talk about you are talking about doing the podcast. This is something that you told me that you've been working on, you want to get into. Let's talk about that. What's the idea
Yeah.
for the podcast? I
So-
know you're still like in
Yeah.
the inception stages of it, but we have that in common.
Yeah, so it's with my friend Rich. We just kept talking one day. Like we just kept going back and forth. Like we ordered the microphones like a year ago and never did anything with them. And then Corona happened, so it was like I don't. Everybody was kind of like, I don't want to go to anybody's house. So then just recently, in the last couple months, we've recorded like 3 or 4 episodes, but we're just kind of banking them until we have kind of a more solid plan.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna start rolling those out, and then start having people that I've made pieces for come on the podcast, and people who I think are cool. It doesn't have to necessarily be like, oh, I made you a piece, so you have to talk to me.
Right.
It could be like just anybody I pretty much find on Instagram or Twitter. Just I'll interview a homeless guy or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
you can learn anything from anybody. So.
Yeah. Shout out to my Life Without Limits podcast people because they have that same concept too.
Really?
Yeah, like it's about living life without limits and just talking to like everyday people.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story. Everybody has a lesson. So it's kind of like that same concept.
Yeah, I like have you ever seen on YouTube the White Underbelly?
What is
He's
that?
a guy. He just interviews just like people who.
Oh,
are on
yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. That's a really good series.
Yeah.
People who are like on drugs or people who right.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
How
Or just bad on bad times,
Yeah.
So I feel like you learn a lot from, because I've been there, not necessarily on drugs or anything like that.
No, but through lows
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
highs. Yeah.
So I feel like you learn a lot more from someone like that than someone who's just like, oh, I got this new product coming out,
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what I want to get into. Cause like yeah, jewelry is cool, but I don't want that to be my like that like my box I'm put in.
Right.
Like I want to be able to branch out and do other things.
Yeah, yeah, there's I mean being creative is like multifaceted, right?
Yeah.
Like your jewelry is a way that you put this out to the world. It's like your bread and butter, but there's so many things that can come from that,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And it's funny because you said like how when David first asked you, "Are you creative? Do you draw?" and all of these things, but like it forces you to become like
Yeah.
that. It pushes you, right? To like be able to draw a piece, be able to like tap into a creativity that you hadn't been pushed to like find before or
Right.
cultivate before.
It's
You
like
know?
a skill I didn't know I had. Like, cause literally when I made that first ring, it was like, I was like, I feel like I already know how to do this,
Yeah.
kinda, you know?
Yeah. But you told me you also come from a family of like entrepreneurs and stuff. Like
Right.
that runs in your blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like my mom, she used to own a restaurant. So she used to do that. She was a waitress, and then she ended up buying the restaurant she was working in, you know?
Yeah.
So she did that. One of my sisters, they have like a, you ever seen like Storage Wars?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
that kind of business.
Yeah.
And actually, when that year I kind of took off, I helped them do that, and like they weren't really onto like the eBay and stuff like that, so I
Yeah.
kind of did that for them. So I feel like in turn that kind of helped me, like
Yeah.
deal with like online
Business.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And then my other sister, she's a nurse, but her husband, he uh he like does like rents apartments, like he buys apartment complexes, fixes them up, and then sells them, things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So again, I was working with him, like I was just doing odd jobs.
Yeah.
So it was like hands on. I was like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't mind working with my hands.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of like all fell into,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like you never know like what up and downs or what roads like life is gonna take you, and you
Right.
always gotta kind of like pick up like knowledge and like what is this situation trying to teach me right now. We're almost up on time, but I did want to ask you, who are some of your clients aside from these famous people and all these artists, but like who are some of the clients that come to you? Is it like working moms, like regular everyday people, like lawyers, doctors? Like who makes up your clientele? Young people? Like who are they?
It's literally A to Z. It's a guy in high school who wants to buy his girlfriend a promise ring.
Okay.
It's the old guy that's 70 that he just wants to buy a Rolex because he woke up wanting a Rolex that day. It's the single mom who her son's graduating, so she wants to buy him a chain. So, I kind of work differently with different people. Like, whatever your situation needs, that's kind of what I'll do for you. Like,
Yeah.
like I said earlier, like, if they want to take time to pay me, like, that's cool. Like, a single mom, like, my mom was, like, had a single mom, so I understand that struggle of, like, wanting to give your son something that you may take a little bit more time to do it,
Yeah.
and help him out, like, with the price or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
just try to help out where I can. Yeah, but that's all kinds of people. Rappers, guys who own grocery stores, lawyers, doctors,
Street
waiters.
pharmacists.
Street pharmacists for sure. Yeah, keep paying them guys. Yeah.
Why do you think that jewelry is so sentimental to us as people? Have you ever like looked into that and done research on that when it comes to like your trade?
Yeah, I've looked when I first started. I kind of wanted to learn more about the history of wearing jewelry.
Yeah.
So like the Egyptians were big on it, like mainly gold, but like Vikings were big on it with silver and things like that. And I think it just really ties into. It's like a tattoo you can take off, kind of like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
like,
a good way. Yeah, to think of
So, and it kind of depends on your mood. Like I have this one lady who one day she'll buy like something super simple just because she wants to like not be too flashy, and then she has the like, oh, I'm a stun on everybody. So it's like different moods.
She sounds like me.
But yeah, I think it just really is just like another way of expressing yourself. It's just a little bit more. It's just a little bit more you, because it's like a lot of people can't go get a T-shirt like exactly what they want, so it's like already out there. But like if you get something custom, like that's you through and through,
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about how people can stay in touch with you. What's the best way to reach you if someone wants to work with you, have something made, get you flued out to go do something exclusive for a client?
You can DM me. You can email me on the Instagram. That's pretty much it. I stay pretty much up to date on my DMs. I know there's people probably, if they're watching, they're probably like, you're lying. but I promise I'm getting to you. Just and if I don't, just kind of remind me, you know.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. My number is actually up on the page now,
Okay.
so you can text me. It's my personal number, so
On
don't
your
get
IG
crazy. Yeah.
profile?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which
Yeah.
is your
At
profile?
Jordan the Jeweler.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so he'll get back to you guys all
Yeah.
if you're
ASAP.
ASAP.
Yeah.
ASAP, which is like 1 or 2 days.
Yeah. By the end of the
Um,
week for sure.
yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for coming to Meet Them
Thanks for having
Mondays.
me.
I really appreciate you wanting to share like your story with us and to see like how many people you touch with your designs on
Yeah.
IG.
Yeah. It doesn't really hit me until someone like says it, and I'm like, oh, I guess like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you're the what was it? The secret of the
Yeah.
South.
Yeah.
The secret of the South.
I like that.
Thank you all so much for listening to Meet Them Mondays. You can follow us on at Meet Them Mondays. I'm your host, Christian Portilla, on IG at Call Her Christian. And if you like what you hear, then share an episode with your friends, or to support the Meet Them Mondays mission, hit us up for sponsorships and ads, and please subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave us a review. Peace.